Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to be talking about some of the rides that are suitable for the smaller and often more demanding members of our party. Yes, that's right everybody, I'm going to be talking toddlers, or more specifically the rides at Walt Disney World that your mini-me will probably enjoy the most. We're going to be covering all 4 Disney parks, so wherever you roam around Walt Disney World there's going to be something to keep Junior happy. Please note however that while I believe these rides to be suitable, mainly based on my own experience with my own children, your mileage may vary. Maybe you've got a kid who's particularly timid or afraid of heights or scared of the dark. You know your kid best, so I'll let you be the judge of that, but these are the ones that I personally would recommend. We're going to be starting our journey out over at the Magic Kingdom. Now the Magic Kingdom, there's no two ways about it, it's got the largest selection of rides for those younger visitors. Many of the rides don't have a height restriction at all, and some of the ones that do, it's pretty reasonable, so most kind of 3-year-olds can ride. So the first ride on our list is going to be Peter Pan's Flight. It's a very dark, very short ride, but you know what's not very short? The line to get on Peter Pan's Flight. The queue oftentimes throughout the day will get in excess of 80 minutes, so you might want to consider trying to rope drop this one, or dare I say it, purchase Genie Plus to try and beat those lines. The good news is, however, if you do decide to ride, there is no height restriction whatsoever, so anybody can ride Peter Pan's Flight. A quick word of warning though, this is, as I mentioned earlier, quite a dark ride. Also, you do hang from a suspended track on this one, and thanks to some forced perspective trickery during the ride, it can appear that you're really quite high up. So if members of your party are maybe scared of heights or really not that good in the dark, use your judgment on this one. But for everybody else, they're going to have a great time. It's a very, very cute, fun ride, classic Disney dark ride, and it's got a cool interactive queue as well, so there's something to keep you busy while you're waiting. Okay, number 2 on our list is going to be Dumbo. Now, there's really not a whole lot to say about this ride other than it is an absolute Disney World classic. It's what I like to call a roundy round ride. I'm pretty certain it's the official term for it. You know the deal, you jump on the elephant and it just spins you around, you control it how high up and down you go, it's just a good time. You can get some really great views from around Magic Kingdom while you're up there as well. Again with this one, super fun interactive queue. They actually have like an indoor big top kids playground area where kids can go and play, and they'll give you a pager and they'll just call you back when it's time. It's probably one of the better queue lines for younger kids, keeping them occupied. The only thing I would say again is, once again, at the tallest point, I think you're about 15 feet in the air, something like that. So if children are a little bit nervous about heights, maybe keep it on the lower levels, but at least you've got control of that on this ride, because you decide how high and low you go. Also, if you're somebody who's susceptible to motion sickness from spinning, this also might be a ride that you want to give a wide berth to, because it kind of goes roundy round. That's why I call it a roundy round. Not just a clever name. Okay, number 3 on our list at Magic Kingdom is going to be the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. So those of you who are old like me might remember this as being Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Well, it was rebranded several years ago as the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. It sees you board one of Pooh's honeypots and embark on an adventure through the 100-acre wood with Tigger, Eeyore, Piglet and all his other friends, and it's just an all-round cute dark ride. I will give you a word of warning on this one however. There was one scene in particular where you experience heffalumps and woozles that might have you asking, was that just coffee I had this morning? Because it's a little bit weird. And also towards the end of the ride, they do simulate thunder and lightning. So if you've got, again, somebody in your party who's not cool with thunder and lightning and stuff like that, maybe, you know, use your judgment on this one. It's not particularly loud or anything, and the rest of the ride's just a good old time, but there's just a couple of points in there that smaller kids may find a little bit, it's not scary, but the heffalumps and woozles bit's definitely weird. Number 4 on our list is going to be Under the Sea with the Little Mermaid, or Journey of the Little Mermaid, I think the ride's called. I can never remember what it's called. It's the air, we just call it the aerial ride. You basically jump aboard a clamshell and it takes you loosely through the story of the Little Mermaid. This to me is classic Disney dark ride, and you can't miss this one. It's a great ride. No height restrictions or anything like that, so everybody can ride it, and lots of really bright, colourful animatronics, fish, octopus, things like that. All the music that you know and love from the movies. There is one part in it that's a little bit dark, and it has kind of a massive Ursula animatronic. I guess for very young children that might be a little bit scary, but other than that, this ride's an absolute winner. I love it. And added bonus, it's the coldest ride at Magic Kingdom. So on a hot day, that air conditioning feels real good. Okay, and the next ride on our list is gonna be It's a Small World. Now I do want to start this one off with a warning, and it is quite serious. You will never, ever, ever get this song out of your head, ever. It's a Small World is a slow moving boat ride that takes you on a trip around the world and through many different cultures. Or perhaps that should be stereotypes. The line's a little bit blurry these days. But one thing is for sure, the ride is undeniably enjoyable for the younger ones. Bright colours, check. Catchy tune, check. Slow moving with no scary bits, check. It's definitely toddler approved. Number 6 on our list is gonna be the Mad Tea Party. Now if your kids, or your adults, are the type of lunatics who like to just spin around in a circle because they like the way being dizzy feels, this ride is gonna be right in their wheelhouse. You basically jump in a giant cup and saucer and it spins you around while you spin the cup around, and so you can be going one way while the cup's spinning another way. I frankly feel a little bit dizzy just talking about it, but it's definitely great fun. Unless you suffer from motion sickness from being spun around, then it's, or you've had lunch, in which case, But other than that, it's a great time. Number 7 on our list is going to be Jungle Cruise. Now, Jungle Cruise is a relaxing boat ride that can be fun for adults and kids alike, but for very different reasons. The adults kind of get to groan at the skipper's bad jokes and shocking puns, while the little ones check out all the fun animal animatronics. Now, quick word of warning with this one, there is one section of the ride where you do go into an old, tumble down temple. It is quite dark, and there are some, obviously, very fake spiders in there, but if you've got somebody who is not cool with stuff like that, just be aware there is a section in the ride. It's quite a short section and you're not really in there for a long time, so I guess you could close your eyes or cling on to mum and dad or whatever, but I just wanted to make you aware of it, that section does exist, because the rest of the ride is kind of outdoorsy and there's just lots of fun animatronics and things, and there's that one bit that could just be a little bit touch and go if you've got one of the more timid types in your party. Now on to one of my absolute favourite rides at Magic Kingdom. We're heading over to Tomorrowland and we're going to the People Mover. Now if there is a more chill ride at Magic Kingdom, I am unaware of it. The ride is pretty long, it's about 10 minutes long. The queue's not usually too crazy because it's kind of an Omnimover type setup where it loads a lot of people very quickly. If your feet are killing you, you can go and do the People Mover. You get a sit down. Sit down is lovely. The breeze, especially on a hot day, is just wonderful. And added bonus, you do get some really unique views of Magic Kingdom from the People Mover. It has some of the best views of the castle from anywhere in the park. You get to go inside Space Mountain, and sometimes they even have the lights on in Space Mountain, and that's really cool looking. Kids are gonna love that one. You get to see a little bit of Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger spin. It's just all around a good ride. I would highly recommend you ride the People Mover. Number 9 on our list is just really a quick shout out to the Prince Charming Carousel over in Fantasyland. What do you say about this? It's a classic carousel. Kids love it. There's usually not much of a wait. Awesome. If you've got smaller ones, the parents can stand at the side and hold them on the horses and stuff like that. It just gives you something to do. You know, sometimes when you can't really decide what you want to do and you kind of like, should we go for lunch or that ride's all the way over there and I don't know what to do. We find that sometimes a quick ride on the carousel make everything a bit better. Number 10 on our list of rides at Magic Kingdom is gonna be Goofy's Barnstormer. Now, Goofy's Barnstormer does have a height restriction of 35 inches, so not too bad. It's a brilliant introduction to roller coasters for younger riders because a couple of reasons. It's thrilling, but not too thrilling. I think it goes 20 miles an hour or something, 22 miles an hour, and there are a few dips and stuff, but the other side to that is if you take one of your kiddos on and they're not loving it, we've all been there, then this ride is actually very short. It's only about a minute long, so it's all over and done with before anybody gets a chance to get really too scared. So it is a really excellent way to get kids into roller coasters and test them out for some of the bigger stuff maybe a bit later on in life. So for the next ride on our list, we are going to be heading over to Epcot, specifically the World Showcase and specifically the Norway Pavilion, because we're going to be going to Frozen. Now Frozen, as I mentioned, can be found in the Norway Pavilion of Epcot's World Showcase. It actually replaced the old Maelstrom ride, for those of you old enough to remember it. I certainly do, rode it many times. And fun fact, you actually still ride in the exact same Viking ships that you did on the old Maelstrom ride. It uses the same track and everything, but obviously now everything's been themed to the hit movie Frozen. It's basically a slow moving boat ride that takes you through, I say darkness, but it's not really that dark. There's a lot of lighting in Frozen, which is pretty good. You get to see some really truly amazing animatronics. You've got Olaf, who's really superb, one of the first ones you come across. You see Sven, Kristoff, Anna, and of course Elsa hits you up with a big Let It Go number towards the end of the ride. There is a small drop in this ride. This is what I do want to warn you about. There is a small drop. It's not so much a drop as it is more of a gentle whoosh. Yeah, that's the sound it makes. It's more of a whoosh than a drop. But just be aware, if people really don't like stuff like that, there is a little bit of a drop. I would say that this drop is, for those of you who've ridden one like Pirates of the Caribbean, it's very, very similar to that. Also, good news for this one is there's no height restrictions, so anybody can ride it. So continuing on the World Showcase at Epcot, we're going to be going to the Mexico Pavilion and we're going to be checking out the Grand Fiesta Tour with the 3 Caballeros. The Grand Fiesta Tour is kind of like It's a Small World, but very focused on Mexico. I love it. It's one of my all-time favorite rides. It helps a great deal that it's in the Mexico Pavilion, which might be the greatest pavilion on the World Showcase. It's just wonderful in there. It looks like it's nighttime. You've got this market. It's just got tons of atmosphere and it's got air conditioning. So come on. Wonderful. Plus on the ride you get to see Donald Duck and stuff like that, so there's lots to keep the kids entertained, as well as those Small World-esque puppets which everyone seems to enjoy. I don't think I will ever go to Epcot and not ride the Grand Fiesta Tour. Okay, and next up at Epcot is gonna be Nemo, or Under the Seas with Nemo and Friends. This is just an absolute delight, especially on a hot day. It's probably got some of the best air conditioning in all of Walt Disney World, although Little Mermaid does run it a close second. Basically, you board a clamshell. It's very similar to the Little Mermaid, actually. You board a clamshell and you go off and you follow the story of Finding Nemo. You get to see all the characters that you know. You've got Marlin and Dory and Bruce the Shark and Crush the Turtle. It's great. It's just a great kids ride. There is one section in this ride, however, that I do want to give you a heads up about, and you go to quite a dark section, and you remember the bit in the movie where there's the anglerfish? Well, they recreate that on the ride, and there's an animatronic of an anglerfish that's kind of on an arm, and it honestly, it's broken most of the time, so you probably won't need to worry about it. But if you go on the ride and it is working, it looks awesome, but also a little bit scary for those younger kids. So just be aware of that, because it can have quite a loud sound effect with it as well. So just a bit of a heads up on that one. Other than that, the ride's an absolute colourful just delight of Nemo goodness. But I will give you another warning. It does have an absolute earworm of a song towards the end of the ride that would honestly give It's a Small World a run for its money. So you've been warned. But now we're heading back over towards Future World and we're going to be checking out Journey into Imagination with Figment. Now this is an absolute Epcot classic. Although it has undergone a few changes over the years, this is a super cute ride that teaches us about the 5 senses for a range of different settings throughout the ride. Plus, at the end of the ride, there are quite a few interactive elements to explore, so the kids definitely seem to enjoy this one. My kids love it. I usually have to end up trying to drag them out of there and go and do something else because they're too busy jumping on stuff and making noises. So kids definitely enjoy this one. Plus, it's Figment. Who doesn't love Figment? And number 5 at Epcot is going to be Spaceship Earth, or to the uninitiated, that's the big golf ball looking thing. I know some people hate people calling it a golf ball. It looks like a golf ball. People call it a golf ball. Spaceship Earth. There's a big ride inside of that, and it is an absolute Epcot classic and one of my personal favourite rides. Not only that, but it's actually educational. So education can be fun. You can get on there, there's no height requirement. It's 15 minutes long in air conditioning, okay? You can sit down, rest those feet, get some AC. Plus, it takes you through a journey and through communication over the years, and it's got some pretty funky looking animatronics in there. It's a lot of fun. I like Spaceship Earth. It's one of my absolute favourites. My kids really enjoy Spaceship Earth. Younger ones might not necessarily get it, but a lot of the time I think they're just excited to be going inside the big golf ball, so I would highly recommend Spaceship Earth. So now heading over to Hollywood Studios, we've got Alien Swirling Saucers. Now Alien Swirling Saucers can be found towards the back of Toy Story Land, so next to Slinky Dog Dash and one of the entrances to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. You really can't miss it. Got a huge statue of Buzz Lightyear outside it who talks, so that's cool. Now just a word of warning on this ride, it does actually have a height requirement, but the height requirement is only 32 inches, so pretty easy for most kind of, 2-3-year-olds to actually get on and ride. This is kind of along the same lines as the Mad Hatter's Tea Party over at Magic Kingdom. I'd describe this as less spinny and more whizzy. Kind of a slingshot type of arrangement. It's a lot of fun, but as I say, there is that 32-inch height requirement for this one, so just be aware of that, because not everybody who wants to ride it might be able to ride it, so avoid disappointment before you get there by maybe measuring the kiddos at home. Another thing I do want to mention about this ride, and in fact Toy Story Land in general, is that a lot of the queues and lines are actually outside. So in the summer, there's not a whole lot of shade about, and those lines can be quite brutal. They have put some extra umbrellas and stuff in recently and some more fans, but no air-conditioned queue line for these rides. You're going to be out in the heat. So if it's a fairly sizable wait, just be aware that you are going to have to stand there in that heat for 40 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour or whatever. Next at Hollywood Studios, and we're staying over in Toy Story Land, and we're going for Toy Story Mania. So think of Toy Story Mania like a drive-through virtual carnival game in 3D, because that's kind of what it is. It's just you sit in a thing and you play a game. And I've never really fully understood what I'm meant to be doing, but we always have a good time doing it. And this is one of the few rides at Toy Story Land that the line is, for the most part, inside under air conditioning. So this one's definitely a little bit more doable if the wait's a little bit longer because you're in that AC, rather than standing out for something like an Alien Swirling Saucer. My kids certainly like this ride, and there is no height requirement, which is great. Now, there usually does take 2 to a car, but we've had 3 in a car if the kids are smaller, or 2 adults and maybe a smaller child in between you is fine also. So just bear that in mind when it comes to separating people in your party and working out who's going to go with who. Okay, now so we're heading over to Animal Kingdom, and we're going straight to Pandora World of Avatar, and we're going to be taking the kids on the Navi River journey. Now the Navi River journey is just a super relaxing boat ride. There's lots of pretty colours and stuff for the younger kids to look at, and just be aware that it is pretty dark in places. And as you get towards the end of the ride, there's a very cool but slightly imposing looking great shaman of something, moi. I might be saying that completely wrong. I actually don't know what it is, but it's a massive animatronic blue alien, and some kids might find that a little bit intimidating because it is making kind of it's kind of singing and banging a drum, and it's super cool. It's one of the best animatronics I've ever seen, but just be aware of that if some kids are scared by that stuff. But other than that, super relaxing boat ride. So next up on the list at Animal Kingdom is going to be the Kilimanjaro Safaris. Now what I really like about this ride is that it's never the same twice. So it's got lots and lots of re-rideability. So even if you've been to Animal Kingdom many times, you can have a good time on the Kilimanjaro Safari. Not only that, but it's actually educational. You're going to learn some stuff while you're at it. So once again, thanks to Disney, learning can be fun. In our experience, if you do want to see the most animals, we found that the best time to ride Kilimanjaro Safaris is either first thing in the morning or last thing at night when it starts to cool down a bit, or better still, if you can manage it, we once got to ride a safari right after it just rained, so it really cooled down a lot. I have never seen so many animals on Kilimanjaro Safaris as after a rainstorm. So if you can time it so that you get on right directly after a rainstorm, you're probably going to see a ton of animals, because I know we did. We saw lions and ostrich and giraffes, and all the hippos were all out. All the things that can sometimes go and hide themselves away, they were out and about, and it was awesome. But nevertheless, no matter what time you ride, it's a great ride, especially for younger kids. The one thing I will say is it's kind of a long ride. It's about 22 minutes long, so you are going to have to make sure that your kids are going to be okay kind of sitting down and keeping kind of still for that length of time, which can be a little bit tricky. Trust me, I know. To get somebody to sit down and stay still for that length of time, but it's really important that they do, because otherwise, you know, it can be a little bit dangerous because the vehicle does bounce around kind of a lot. But apart from that, fantastic ride for the toddlers. Okay, and heading over to Dino Land USA now in Animal Kingdom for the Triceratops Spin. This is basically the same as Dumbo. It's a roundy round ride. Also, I forgot to mention earlier in this video, there's another roundy round ride at Magic Kingdom, which is Aladdin's Magic Carpets. Same deal. These are the exact same ride. You get to go up and down, you control it. The music and theming are slightly different, but ultimately the ride's the same. So if you've ridden Dumbo or Aladdin at Magic Kingdom and you like them, then you're gonna like Triceratops Spin. So there are definitely more rides at Walt Disney World that you can ride if you're a toddler, but these are the rides that I've tried and tested myself and found that my kids in particular enjoyed. There are definitely some darker rides or faster rides or scarier rides. Haunted Mansion, I'm looking at you. My kids found that one a little bit too scary when they were very small, but they can ride it. But generally speaking, if you stick to the rides that are featured on this list, it's a fairly safe bet that you're gonna have a good time. And you know what else is a safe bet? That you'll enjoy this video next. Maybe check it out now.